I'd like to bring this special meeting of the Support Services Committee to order. This is for taking care of items under the for the Department of Self-Insurance. And I'll pass it over to Amy to lead the meeting.
Thank you,
Amy.
And I wanted to thank you for coming in special. We've been busy writing policies. The first one is a resolution requested to update the workplace violence prevention plan and program. This is mostly changes our housekeeping. We went through and redid all the risk assessments, which just updated number of people and hours and mostly that. And of course, all of these policies have been approved or reviewed and approved by the county administrator, the county attorney, the unions, and everybody to get it up to this point.
A motion to get it on the floor, please. Supervisor Sokol, Supervisor Leggett, second. Any discussion?
Looks like it was,
Supervisor Leggett.
yeah, so all the changes were there as have been crossed out and such.
In this one, yes. Yep, old and for the new, strike out for the old. Like we removed the references to West now and whatnot. The only other thing we did is DPWs have their own standalone workplace violence. We put them in under this, so this covers every department.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy, these policies are shared with the EAP so that they're on the same page as far as what our policies are, so when they may counsel individuals that they know where we are.
I don't know if they're shared before they're approved, but I certainly think they.
I mean, after they're
they
approved,
shared.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. I'll touch base with Human Resources to make
Yeah.
sure.
Further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next.
Then the next one is updates to the travel and vehicle use policy. These have been kicked around for about 6 years. Our current travel and county vehicle use really addresses the use of vehicles, and the safety committees felt that it needed more safety items, more concerns with making sure our drivers in those vehicles were safe. So there's quite a few changes, again, bold and strike out, clarifying who is authorized to use a county vehicle, what they do in the case of an accident or breakdown, making sure that employees participate in a driver improvement training every 3 years, and added, things like that to make sure that our drivers are safe in those vehicles. Again, approved by employee safety, risk management, county administrator, county attorney, and now at this level for your review.
A motion to bring it on the floor. Supervisor Leggett, second by Supervisor McGowan. Discussion.
Thank you. About if you've been in an accident and it's over $4,500 and such, is that all totally new?
That section is totally new. The purpose of that is kind of to standardize things across all departments and also give the departments some direction. Without that in there, departments will call me and say, well, this guy was in an accident, caused quite a bit of damage, there was no tickets, what do we do with him? And I'll usually say, well, send him back to driver improvement, that's about all we can offer. The way the policy is written now is, we'll go back to risk management and say, what do you think? Should we have some retraining? Give that department somewhere to go when they have that kind of incident.
Okay.
Further discussion. Supervisor Sokol. How was hitchhikers ever prohibited?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I mean, aren't we supposed to be friendly and help out our constituents?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I'm looking at the item A, first paragraph. It says delegate authority to determine the board to approve attendance second measures. And so this supplements as authorization. In other words,
I'm sorry, where are you?
I'm looking at the first paragraph that says made to provision local law 1, codified herein as the title that delegates authority to the chairman of the board to approve attendance at conventions, should read.
There's no changes in that paragraph at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so down below where it
There's-
says, for example, whenever requesting submission of the Board of Supervisors, of the Board of Supervisors for out-of-state travel, or when requesting authorization from the department head, chairman of the oversight committee or county administrator to attend the meeting, the employee making the request shall be paid.
So
So
we
basically,
need,
what we're saying is that you need for that employee to have to go to the chairman of the board.
and that's currently, my understanding is what has actually happened is section B. It looks like we missed in section A to just take out the chairman of the board and reference down in C. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
Yes, the travel requests that we use that are periodically attached to agendas, they're approved by the department head, by the county administrator, and by the chair of the oversight committee. So it's really just bringing that paragraph in line with what reality has been.
And we need to update A
No, I think that's
above.
good, because I don't think you want people calling the chairman of the board to have to travel. I mean, I think it should go through the process.
So says the chairman. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, that's a,
Don't call me.
you know.
Why are you passing the buck?
You see what I'm saying? In other words, I'm just trying to figure out how this all laces together.
Yeah, this was an update that was long overdue.
Good.
Amy, I have a question. Will the accident that we saw that occurred yesterday between the sheriff's deputy and health department, which both are county vehicles, but kind of under different jurisdiction perhaps, does your department get involved in that?
It would, with this policy, that if it was more than 2,500, I haven't seen the amount of damage on that incident yet, but yeah, this would apply.
Okay. Further discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next update is the Warren County Alcohol and Drug Testing Policy for CDL drivers. This would apply, I believe, the only CDL drivers we have are in our DPW. It was last updated in 1995, so of course our safety consultant, Needham Risk Management, wanted to update this and bring us into compliance with current federal regulations. This one is not written like the others where it's bold and strikeout. This is a totally, let's replace what we had with what's in here. And again, it's been reviewed by all the appropriate parties to get it to this level. Most of this policy is federal regulation, so there's not a lot of, we can put this or that in. It's federal regulation, so it's just bringing us into compliance.
The motion to get it on the floor. Supervisor McGowan, second. Supervisor Leggett, discussion. Supervisor Leggett.
Amy, so
Are you saying the underline is additional, or just...
No, the underline is just underlined to make you really look at it.
Oh,
Yep. No,
okay.
this is a new rewrite.
Further discussion, questions? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The fourth one is a resolution requested to update the Warren County substance abuse policy. So this is for everyone that's not under the CDL policy. The current version is from 1989, served us well for many years. However, again, a complete rewrite recommended by our safety consultant, modernizing the policy, for today's needs. Again, whatever's underlined is not new or anything. This is a complete rewrite for that policy as well.
Motion to get it on the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Leggett. Discussion, questions? Supervisor Leggett.
On the legislative front at this point in time, with legalization of marijuana, how will that affect?
I would assume when that happens, we will look at this policy and rewrite it appropriately.
Further comments, questions?
When and if that happens, I should
A good answer.
say.
Well, I guess, Amy, it is covered for any medication, if it's medical marijuana or any of the
Yeah.
medications, you have to notify
Yep.
supervisor. It goes into a long discussion of how you approach that. So that would, whether it's marijuana or anything, it's
Yep.
all would be under the same heading. Further questions? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The fifth item is the difficult one here. That's why we requested a special meeting. Our new county administrator, when we looked at the property and casualty program, some of you that have been on the board for a while will recall what we used to do, we've done for many years, I should say, is a broker services contract. So we would say, Mr. Broker, give us, we would do an RFP, Mr. Broker, say, give us your fee to administer this group of policies. We've been with NIMER for a long time, we want to stay with NIMER. And we would get those RFPs, and then we would select the lowest fee for the broker. And in turn, they would not get a commission on our 9-year policy. Many other counties do that very differently. And what they do is they have a consultant do the whole bid process in what they call assigned market. So a consultant would be hired, we would do an RFP for a consultant, and then they would look at your programs and then divvy up the different markets, okay? Because only your different companies, Travelers, Selective, NIMER, whoever it is, would come in with bids with just one broker. And then that consultant will come back and advise you on what they feel the best bang for your buck is. So in talking with Ryan, he suggested that we do that, and we issued an RFP for a consultant to look at our program, to say how do we get from doing it the way we're doing it to the first of the year next year into doing things a different way, and administer the whole process of assigning markets, and as you can guess, that can get a little political. So in that RFP, we had 4 responses. They ranged from $9,000 to $25,000. They all looked valuable, I think. Ryan, jump in anytime you want. We reviewed them and thought they all looked like they were willing to do the job and do it well. So our recommendation is to go with one group, which is the $9,000 one. They would come on as quickly as we can get them. We are a little short in time here, the way insurance works and getting everything ahead and getting a contract and all of that. So why we want to keep this moving along. One group is a group out of the Syracuse area. I've known some of their folks for 20 or more years. I think they're totally qualified to do this. So we're asking for a resolution to contract with one group who would do our consulting piece and prepare the bid specs and then advise you later this year on who the best broker is to go with as well as carriers.
We'll take it on the floor.
Thing Ryan.
Motion by Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Wild. Questions, comments? Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, are these firms are just to analyze our books, or are they insurance people that...
They are consultants that will analyze what coverage we have and what exposures we have. So like one group will go to all of our properties and look at everything to make sure that we are currently insured properly. And then once they know what we need for insurance, they will prepare the bid specs and assign the markets to get the carriers and brokers to come back to us with a package and say, okay, this is, broker A, I got Selective and this is how we would insure Warren County and it'll cost this much. Broker B got Travelers, let's say, and it would cost this much. So they will do that whole process for us over the next several months.
Supervisor Wild.
A huge price difference,
There is.
and I know we have, quite a bit out there, so, and I saw it wasn't too long ago that we had a thing on insurance, and that we got, everything broken down, what's above
Correct.
and beyond, but,
Yep.
I'm more than half down. Are we gonna get what we need? I mean, not that I'm happy for the price, I just want to make sure that, we're gonna get what we really need with that low price.
I actually did reach out to them afterwards because you really realize you're going to do all of these services, and they agreed yes.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Is this a fixed price, or is there travel and living associated with this? It's got to go on top,
This is fixed.
so all inclusive.
Mhm.
Supervisor Leggett.
This is what our current contractor is, Rosenkieran, is it?
Mhm.
Okay, so they did the broker services on it, and so that worked. How's the differentiation there?
The difference is that we used to do an RFP for a broker, because in the past, there was some at the county who really wanted to stay with NYMER. And so, okay, you bring us NYMER, and we are going to pay you a fee, a broker services fee, and NYMER will not take any commissions in return. So that was how it was balanced. In a year or so ago, if some of you were on the committee, may recall that Rosenkieran actually brought us two bids. They brought us NYMER and I think it was Selective at the end of the year to look at. So they actually marketed, it's insurance lingo, they actually went out and said, somebody else give us a quote.
And they're working as broker.
Their
on
broker,
record.
yep. You will get a broker at the end of this for January, and that broker will bring you whatever carrier they feel is best suited for Warren County. The consultant is going to review that and tell you, amongst all these different brokers and carriers, which one is the best. And they're also going to review our program and make sure that all the brokers we've had over the years have brought us what we need, and that we're on task. We did do this about 20 years ago. I actually resurrected the RFP from 2000-ish, 1999, 2000-ish, when we did this.
Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I've never just really been a big fan of consultants. And I think I'm looking for your direction, Mr. County Administrator, as to why we would spend $9,000. Is there going to be a cost savings benefit to doing this, or
That's certainly
exposure, or
That's certainly the hope. And there were two reasons in my mind, two major reasons to do this. Number one, as Amy just said, we haven't had, and I think our insurance program is terrific, but we haven't had an independent analysis of it in 20 years, where if someone comes in, interviews staff, looks over the sites, everything that you would do to do a formal loss analysis and risk assessment. That is valuable in and of itself to make sure that we have the proper coverages when you look at our loss runs. Secondly, nothing against NYMER. I've used NYMER for many years in the past. I've also used private sector brokers. I think NYMER's terrific, but it doesn't sit well with me that there's not competition for that business. And getting a consultant to manage an RFP process, to select brokers and have the brokers come in with carriers, it's more competitive. From that perspective, the impulse would be to drive the cost down. On the other hand, the review of our exposures could do either. If we have too much insurance somewhere, it'll drive the price down. If we have too little insurance another place, it'll drive the price up. But bottom line is, I think doing it this way better serves the county.
so in the end, we're going to follow the consultant's advice then, right? Or are we going to talk about...
No, I don't think we would go down this road if we weren't prepared to follow their advice.
And lastly, where's the money coming from?
We have some funds left over in unallocated insurance. I think that would be the appropriate place to pay for this. The unallocated insurance budget is in the clerk of the board's office. They don't have $9,000, but we will, if it's the will of the board to do this, I'll take money out of my budget. We'll look elsewhere in the general fund and see what we can find, and we'll try to piece it together.
Supervisor Watson.
Chairman, thanks. What's our typical annual premium in insurance? And the reason I'm asking is I just want to kind of weigh it against the $9,000.
I'm going to say it's right around $1 million, but I don't retain those numbers well.
Okay. So my sense then with that is there's a good opportunity we can recover that $9,000
And
at $1 million policy, looking for opportunities.
There's also no obligation to award a contract here. We make that very clear in the RFP. We wanted to give the board an option to do it a different way if you feel that that's warranted.
Vice Leggett.
Thank you. From what I've been told is that New York State Insurance Board sets insurance policy rates. The difference is on what brokers charge, and then there's also a cap on how much they can charge. Do I have that right?
I believe you do. I don't get into the weeds that much like that.
So basically then, consultant would be going into a broker, and broker would be looking at their margin of what, of their minimum max of what they can charge for their brokerage.
What they will do is once they determine they review our policies and our exposures, they'll prepare an RFP which would be issued from our purchasing office, and they would have the various brokers say, who would you like to bid with? And that's called a signing market. So maybe Rose and Kiernan says, I don't have any idea what they would say, I want to bid with NYMER. Okay, Rose and Kiernan gets NYMER. Broker B, they want to bid with Selective, broker C. And then they bring those all back and look at those bids and say which one is the best for us, and will give us that advice. So not only would we be changing brokers here, we could be changing companies as well, based on the results of the RFP. But that's something that I wouldn't feel comfortable evaluating and assigning markets by any means. That you need somebody that's a real specialist in doing that.
Okay.
The consultant will not be able to bid on it's a consultant, they can't bid on the program. We're keeping those separate.
And if we found ourselves in that situation where we retained the same insurance carrier, we would have the benefit of having done that formal loss analysis to better tailor it to our needs.
Supervisor McGowan.
Also, by doing it this way, can we have multiple brokers or agencies? Can we, like, say we're able to get something cheaper, better insurance, for less money, not with NYMER, with another one, but the one main broker that we're going doesn't have that other, are we going to be able to shop and pick and put our insurance together where we maybe use multiple agencies to achieve our goal?
It could be a possibility. We have coverages, like our excess workers' comp over the workers' comp plan. There's only a couple carriers, so you can't have 6 brokers bid on 2 carriers. So yeah, you could end up that way. But that consultant will give you guys that advice later this year.
Supervisor Leggett.
So, like, could it be broken out? Liability would go with NYMER, inland marine would go with Selective or something like that. Would it get that complicated?
I don't know how they would break it out, but yeah, you could see that doing different things. I think we'd want to be careful not to make it too complicated.
Right.
But I could see that because some of those specialty lines, like your excess workers' comp, employer's liability, maybe the airport, there's just not a lot of companies that carry that kind of insurance. So we'll look to the consultant to get us through with that.
A question, Amy. Mr. Chairman.
Just one of the important things they're going to do, I assume, is they're going to take a look at, make sure they have a complete, accurate listing of all of our property.
We'll actually
anything
visit.
built, like one would think that the more modern buildings, as they were built, they were added to the policy, right? But then there are other buildings that we have. So it would make sure, where I'm going with this, so that their method of determining that, Ryan, I would assume, is they're going to be meeting with the various departments, and but it might also be good to check to make sure, for example, they might be able to check through the assessor's office to identify all properties owned by the county, as opposed to just one method of making that analysis. In the event somebody gets hurt on one of our properties, as opposed to a building fire or something like that. And they're also going to be looking at, for example, the courthouse, construction costs, replacement costs, to make sure that our insurances for not only the building but contents and et cetera are where they need to be.
A lot of work for $9,000.
They'll take a look at the loss runs for each of our policies. They'll meet with Amy and I to make sure they're getting the full universe. They'll do on-site interviews, on-site inspections of all our properties, and then they'll work all of that into a formal analysis for us as to what we need to add, what we need to subtract.
Including those properties that we no longer own. When we sold Westmont, for example, they've fallen off. So anything that we have divested ourselves of, to make sure the list is absolutely accurate.
President Liggett.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, this is going to be a one-time thing. We do it this year, but we will not have to do it the year after and year after.
Well, we'll pass that question on to Amy.
I anticipate that it'll be this time and then not for, I don't know, if you do 3 years or 6 years with whatever broker that you select, and then you would probably do it again at the end of that. But who knows what will happen in that amount of time.
Right. Well, it would not be our intention to do it again next year unless we were really unhappy with the results of this time. The way I've seen it done before is a broker gets selected out of this process to keep the business for a couple of years, and if the premiums go out of control, you go back to the drawing board.
But whereas this has not been done in 20 years.
Right.
Chairman.
So who bears the responsibility in the end, on our end, of ensuring that our inventory of what we insure is accurate and correct? Is there a person or a department that bears that responsibility? And another reason I ask is because that if whoever is responsible would annually make sure that communications are going out to all of our departments, agencies, and whatever, to make sure that the lists are accurate and correct, and then that would get reported back, and then then it would be on that department, for example, to make sure that they've taken the time to make sure that is absolutely a correct assessment, but that would be done annually, correct? It may be redundant annually, but it's done annually.
It is.
Just as an ensuring kind of thing. Am I getting this?
Amy will
You're
speak to
correct.
that.
I do that annually. I actually have a very good database of county properties. There's about 165 county properties, and it has pictures of the locations, values of contents, what their mechanicals, because that makes a difference to insurance. And each year before renewal, those are sent to the departments. So like DPW will get a picture, a page of everything within their department, a page for each building, and then somebody signs off and returns that to me. I pay attention to resolutions and minutes from various committees so that I pick up buildings and cars and whatnot. Car lists, equipment lists, pollution tank lists, all sent out to every department every year, and they sign off back to me to make sure those schedules are as accurate as can be.
So, for example, when you sent out the year that we built the fire training facility, that came back as a new...
I would have probably added it during the year, depending on, that's why I try to keep track of what's going on through minutes and
You'd also look at the
resolutions.
department's response to make sure that they
Yep.
understood that
Yep.
that now fell under
Yep.
their
Yep.
auspices, and so too with the court, you would have gotten a report
Right.
back.
Yep, yep. Well, like the court, a big building like that, we put builder's risk on it while they're building it, and then I track that, and once it's complete and the CO is issued, we'll change that over to property.
Supervisor Wild.
Thanks. Amy, I'm familiar with consultancies. Did they give you an idea how many days or hours this was going to take? And in addition to that, what kind of support they need from our internal staff to help them?
I don't know that they gave us
I didn't see...
Recall, Ryan, I don't recall that they gave us, they just said they would do, it's going to take some time, on my part, I'm sure, just to visit these places.
Well, and here's
But
what
it's
I'm...
nothing I haven't done before, and it's probably time. It's been about 10 years since I myself have visited every location, so it's time to do that again.
So my guess is that these guys are probably chartered to get at least $200 an hour, maybe $250 an hour, as far as their internal rates that they like to bill out for. And that would mean that they have 36 hours to get this project done. They're $250 an hour.
It'll take longer than that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
So I'm curious, what's the typical billing rate, and understand that if it's going to take longer, I would imagine their billing rates are the same as these other consultancies.
I can only speak to experience on this. Marshall and Sterling, who was one of the proposers for this contract, provided the same services twice in Saratoga County when I was there, and the price of those services was $22,500, the same as quoted here. We're a smaller county, we have less exposure, so I don't think it's unreasonable to pay less here than $22,500.
But you see the point where I'm getting at, right? $9,000. They're going to be pressured by their firm. They're a big firm. They're northeastern part of the states, right? So they've got offices in many places. They're going to be measured based on their utilization rate, is what it used to be called in consultants. I'm not sure if it's the same now, but basically you get a project, you have this many hours to get it done. You don't get any more money. You need to get it done in that many hours. And I'm just curious if we think, you know, let's say it's even $150 an hour, which I doubt, because these guys have nice suits on, right? So I'm thinking it's probably 200, you know, so it's going to be 40, 45, maybe 50 hours to do it all.
There's also the aspect of establishing a beachhead, establishing relationships with people in the county, and, another term for it is buying a business. So it's not unheard of for a consultant to get involved and know that they're going to eat some of the cost just for the sake of establishing those relationships for the long term.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're totally comfortable with this $9,000 bid, and these guys get it done?
What I'll say is I love Marshall and Sterling, and if I could justify going with Marshall and Sterling, I would go with Marshall and Sterling, but with a $9,000 bid to provide the same services, I just don't know that I can justify that.
And just to follow up, I mean, if we check their references and what they had to say, and if they do something similar to what we're asking for, and was it successful?
They do. I'm very familiar with one group through my peer group, the Association of Self-Insured Counties. One of the ones that will work on this is Mr. Paul Casey. Paul was risk manager for Onondaga County for many years. He was president of the self-insured counties. I was his vice president. I'd like to, I don't want to, probably shouldn't say this, but I'd like to think that they're kind of comfortable with how we do things because he knows me very well. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but Paul's kind of semi-retired. I think he just likes to do a lot of work, and he will do a good job for us. I do know Frank Callow, again, from my association, and I believe it was Paul Codier. I've met him a couple of times, so I know them. I'm comfortable with them, as comfortable as I guess Ryan is with Marshall and Sterling. But at the end of the day, we asked if they could do this scope of services, and they said yes for that money. So.
I'm glad to know that you have personal relationships, because if we end up getting a poor product, you slamming them, you have the history, right? So in the marketplace, that would be bad for them. No, what I'm trying to say is if they are buying the business, they do know you. If you were to say something negative about them, it would have more weight than if any of us did. That's important. So I think I'm more comfortable now.
I'd also like to say I was very impressed with Mr. Casey's experience, president of the organization that's called the New York State Association of Self-Insured Counties. He held that role for 3 years. Director of Risk Management for Onondaga County, that's Syracuse. He held that position for 9 years. He's been insurance and risk manager in Yates County. He knows what he's doing.
Supervisor Driscoll.
I'm all set, thanks.
Vice Mayor Or, Conover.
Thank you. Where it gets, where there can be some real value added beyond just a common building or whatever, is when you get into specialty or specific kind of items. What comes to mind are dams, for example, docks. I know that because we have to deal with those things. Airports. So, for example, I would hope that they would take a good close look at, there's certain assets at the airport that we own, but somebody else operates, right?
Sure.
We have land leases, we have all kinds of arrangements, and we have insurances that's supposed to be provided. Who ensures that those are received and they're at the levels that they need to be? So I would hope that, these consultants would take a bit of a close look at special situations like the airport as one example.
Buzz Leggett, did you have something? Amy, I have a question under the heading of shared services and economy of scale. We have several town supervisors here. This is a lot that these folks are doing for our county. Every organization needs insurance. Is there any cooperation in shared services
I don't know that that's been
arrangement that we can make?
looked at in the past.
Well, let me rephrase that. I'll ask the question of the town supervisors. You have to deal with insurance. The county has to deal with insurance. Can everybody
It's well
benefit along that line of coming together under one umbrella?
You would
Consultancy.
think, but it's a well-regulated industry, and there is town general municipal law and all of that may define some things outside of what insurance companies themselves are able to do. I don't know.
We could certainly pose that question when we get started. It wouldn't fall under this particular scope of work, but perhaps for a future year.
Any other questions or discussion? Amy, any other comments? Fine? Good. Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor of awarding the bid to one group? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Amy? Okay. Any other discussion, Frank? Members of the floor? Chairman Conover? Okay.
Enjoy your meeting.
All right. Hot cross buns on the table.
Thank
One
you.
for the road.
Already had one.
I'll take a motion to adjourn, please. Supervisor Wild, second by Supervisor McGowan. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Worked,